The moment I saw her stepping out of his car at 2 a.m. I knew my world would never be the same. But let me take you back to where it all started. I met Emily 3 years ago, and back then, I thought I had won the lottery of life. She wasn't just beautiful, she had this spark that made every room brighter. I wasn't the only one who noticed. My best friend, Daniel, had been around since childhood. We grew up on the same street, went to the same schools, and even dreamed about opening a business together. One day, at first, I thought it was perfect. The girl I loved and my closest friend got along so well. I mean, isn't that what everyone wants? Your partner and your best friend laughing together, being comfortable in each other's company. But slowly, little details started to bother me. The way her laugh stretched longer at his jokes than at mine. How his eyes lingered just a second too long on her. One night, as we all sat on my porch drinking beers, Daniel said something that stuck with me. He looked at Emily, then at me, and said, "You're lucky, man. She's one of a kind." His smile was genuine, but there was something behind it, something I couldn't quite read. I brushed it off. Maybe I was just overthinking. But then came the first red flag I couldn't ignore. The first real crack appeared on a Friday night. I had planned a small dinner at our place. Just me, Emily, and Daniel. We'd done it countless times before, nothing unusual. But that evening, I noticed something that made my stomach tighten. Emily had cooked her favorite pasta, the one she always said she only makes for special occasions. When I teased her about it, asking what was so special about tonight, she laughed nervously and said, "Nothing. I just felt like it." But her eyes quickly darted toward Daniel, and he gave her the smallest, almost unnoticeable nod. Throughout dinner, their energy was different. They weren't obvious, no touching, no flirting out loud, but there was a rhythm between them, an invisible current. They shared small glances, little smiles when they thought I wasn't looking. I tried to ignore it, tried to tell myself I was being paranoid, but deep down, I knew something was shifting. Later that night, while Emily was in the kitchen, Daniel leaned closer to me and said quietly, "You've really got it good, man. She's amazing." He looked like he wanted to say more, but instead he just sipped his beer and stared at the floor. It wasn't what he said, but how he said it, with this softness in his voice I had never heard before. I couldn't sleep after they left. Every smile she gave him replayed in my head like a broken record. I told myself I was imagining things, but the seed of doubt had already been planted. A week later, Emily started coming home later than usual. She had excuses. I stayed late at work, or I grabbed coffee with a friend. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But then one evening, when she stepped out to take a phone call, I caught a glimpse of her screen lighting up. It was a message from Daniel. She quickly turned the phone over, pretending it was nothing. My chest tightened as if all the air had been sucked out of the room. That night, when she went to shower, I did something I never thought I'd do. I checked her phone. My hands shook as I unlocked it, my heart racing so fast I thought it might break through my ribs. I scrolled through her messages, and there it was, a string of texts from him. They weren't explicit, not yet, but the tone was unmistakable. "Can't wait to see you again. Last night was perfect." And then the one that shattered me. "Don't worry, he'll never know." I felt the blood drain from my face. My best friend, my girlfriend, the two people I trusted most, were hiding something from me. But the worst part wasn't even what I read. It was the realization that it had already gone too far. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face. The way she smiled at me when we first met, the warmth in her laugh, the softness in her voice. But now, all of that felt poisoned. My chest was heavy, like someone placed a stone inside it. I kept asking myself, was it real? Did she ever love me? Or was it all just a game? The next morning, I made a decision. I wouldn't confront her directly. Not yet. I wanted the truth, not excuses. If I just asked her, she'd probably deny it, make up some sweet story to calm me down. No, I needed evidence, proof. So, I started watching quietly. I memorized the number she was texting that night. I waited for her to leave her phone unattended, and when she did, I checked the contact. It wasn't saved under a name, just a number. That made me suspicious immediately. For 2 days, I observed. I noticed her leaving the house more often, saying she was going to see a friend. She never mentioned which friend, though. My gut told me it wasn't just an ordinary visit. On the third evening, I decided to follow her. I know it sounds crazy, but my mind wouldn't let me rest until I uncovered the truth. She left around 7 p.m., wearing that red dress I had bought her last month. My heart sank the moment I saw it. She never wore it for me. I waited a few minutes, then followed quietly. She walked fast, like she didn't want to be seen. My palms were sweating, but I stayed in the shadows, my steps soft, my breath shallow. She turned the corner and entered a small cafe. My heart nearly stopped. Through the glass window, I saw her sit down at a table. And then, he arrived. A man, tall, well-dressed, with a confident smile. She lit up when she saw him. That smile, the one I thought was only mine. I stood frozen outside, watching her laugh, touch his arm, leaning close. Every gesture stabbed me like a knife. I wanted to storm inside, to grab her hand and drag her away, to scream in her face, "How could you?" But instead, I stood there in silence, my whole body trembling. The worst part wasn't what I saw. It was what I felt. The undeniable truth. She wasn't mine anymore. Maybe she never was. I clenched my fists, nails digging into my skin, my jaw tight. I told myself I would wait. I would listen. If she lied to me after this, I'd know exactly what kind of person she really was. When she finally left the cafe, she didn't notice me. She walked down the street with that same glowing smile, while I followed behind in the shadows, broken but determined. And then, she pulled out her phone. She called someone. I leaned closer, just enough to hear. Her voice was soft, playful, almost a whisper. "I miss you already. Don't worry, he doesn't suspect a thing." My blood ran cold, my vision blurred. I wanted to scream, to collapse, to disappear. But instead, I kept walking, my face blank, my heart burning. I knew now. The woman I loved was betraying me. But what she didn't know is that I wasn't going to let this end the way she expected. I walked home that night like a ghost. My mind was spinning, but my face stayed blank, as if I was numb to everything. Deep inside, though, the storm was raging. Every word she whispered on that phone echoed in my head. "Don't worry, he doesn't suspect a thing." She thought I was blind. She thought I was weak. But she underestimated me. The next morning, I acted normal. I kissed her cheek when she woke up, smiled, and even made her breakfast. She didn't suspect a thing. Her eyes, though, I noticed something. They weren't the same eyes that once looked at me with love. They had a secret, a shadow. And now I knew what that shadow was. I had two choices: confront her and watch her lie, or play her own game and expose the truth. And I wasn't ready to let her off so easily. So, I started leaving subtle hints. I asked her casually about her friend. She froze for a split second before forcing a smile. I pretended not to notice. That hesitation told me everything. Days passed, and my anger grew heavier. I could barely sleep, barely eat. But I knew patience was my weapon. If I exploded too soon, she'd twist the story, make herself the victim. I couldn't let that happen. Then one night, she said she was going out again. "Just with the girls," she said, brushing her hair, looking perfect in the mirror. I nodded and smiled, pretending to believe her. But inside, I was burning. This time, I followed her again. My chest was tight, my hands shaking, but I forced myself to keep going. She didn't go to the cafe this time. Instead, she walked faster, looking around, as if she was afraid someone might see her. Finally, she stopped at a small hotel on the edge of town. My heart stopped beating for a moment. I watched as she stepped inside, her heels clicking against the floor, her figure disappearing behind the door. I stood there, frozen in the cold night air, my fists clenched. That was it, the final proof. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My whole world shattered in front of me. But then, something inside me changed. The pain turned into fire. The heartbreak twisted into a strange, dangerous calm. I didn't run inside. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. Instead, I smiled. Because now, I knew exactly what I had to do. When she came home hours later, pretending to be tired from her girls' night, I acted normal again. I kissed her forehead, held her close, and whispered, "I love you." She smiled, relieved, thinking I was still blind. But in my mind, I had already decided. This game she was playing, I was going to end it. And when I did, she would never forget it. The next few days were torture. Every time she looked at me, every time she smiled, I saw the lies behind her eyes. And I kept playing my role, pretending I didn't know, pretending I was still the blind, devoted boyfriend she thought I was. But in the shadows of my mind, I was preparing. I started gathering every piece of evidence. The phone calls, the locations, even the hotel. I took pictures, recorded dates, made sure every detail was written down. If she wanted to play games, I'd make sure I held all the cards. Finally, the moment came. She said she was going out again. Another girls' night. Another lie. This time, I didn't follow. I waited. Hours passed, and my plan fell into place. I set the table with candles, wine, and her favorite meal, the perfect picture of romance. When she walked in, smiling and pretending to be exhausted, she froze. Her eyes darted from the food to me, sitting there calmly, a glass of wine in my hand. "Surprise," I said softly, my voice steady but cold. She forced a smile, but I could see the fear already creeping in. She sat down, trying to act normal. But I leaned forward, slid my phone across the table, and pressed play. Her voice filled the room. "Don't worry. He doesn't suspect a thing." The blood drained from her face. Her hands shook. She tried to speak, but I cut her off. "Save it," I said. "I know everything. The cafe, the hotel, him." Silence. The only sound was her shaky breath. Tears filled her eyes, but I didn't feel pity. "Not anymore. You think I'm a fool. You think I'd never notice," I whispered, my voice breaking for the first time. "I loved you. I gave you everything. And this is how you repay me." She started crying, begging me to listen, saying it meant nothing, that it was just a mistake. But the words bounced off me like stones hitting a wall. I stood up, looked her straight in the eyes, and for the first time, she saw the real me, the man who had been broken, betrayed, and rebuilt into something colder. I didn't scream. I didn't throw things. I simply walked to the door, opened it, and said, "Get out." She froze, her mouth open, unable to believe what she was hearing. "Take your lies, your fake love, your pathetic excuses, and leave," I said. "You made your choice the moment you walked into that hotel. And now, I'm making mine." Her tears fell harder, but I didn't flinch. When the door finally closed behind her, the silence was deafening. For the first time in weeks, I felt free. The pain was still there. The scars would remain forever, but the chains of her betrayal were gone. I poured myself another glass of wine, sat at the table she left behind, and whispered to myself, "She thought she broke me, but she only made me stronger." And in that moment, I knew my story didn't end with her betrayal. It began with my freedom.